Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, I'm Rachel and I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. And for today's video, I'm going to talk about two things with you. One, I'm going to talk about the Good and the Beautiful Pre-K curriculum. And two, I'm going to talk about my son and his speech difficulty and how the Good and the Beautiful, I'm hopeful, is going to be very beneficial to us this upcoming fall. To start off, I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of a backstory on my son. My 2-year-old, he will be 3 at the beginning of May. And when he was born, he was completely fine when he was born, but within a few minutes, he had complete respiratory failure and he had to be airlifted on a ventilator to our closest children's hospital where he spent a little bit of time there. They never really figured out why. What happened to him did. They basically just said it was a very rare possibility of it happening to anyone. And we just had to keep treating him until he was better. So eventually he got strong enough to come off the ventilator and he was finally able to come home after a little while. So he is a pretty active, independent, headstrong toddler. Typical 2-year-old in my opinion, but he does not talk very well, if really ever. He has about 5 or 6 words that he says consistently. So when we first started taking him to the doctor for his well checks each month, they assured us that he was fine and that he was just a little delayed, potentially due to his birth trauma experience. So we continued just living life normally. And then when his first birthday hit, he was saying dad, and that was about it. And then the closer we got to 2, the more concerned we got because we would read the CDC guidelines and he was not meeting the speech milestones. He's always met all of the other milestones, but he has not ever met the speech milestones. So we took him to our pediatrician and he kind of did a once over and he said, oh, he's completely healthy. He's fine. He's just going to be a late talker. So my husband and I had a bad feeling about it, honestly. So we decided to make an appointment with our family doctor who we just started seeing at the beginning of the pandemic. And we took him in to see her and she kind of realized immediately that he was not, I'm not going to say acting normal because, I mean, what's normal for one kid isn't normal for the other, but he was just very reserved. He wasn't talking. He wasn't talking like other kids his age would normally talk, even if they are shy or angry about being at the doctor. So she went ahead and referred us to our early intervention program, which treats kids up until the age of 3 with a speech therapist. So he had to be evaluated by a speech therapist and a developmental therapist to see where exactly he was at, if they thought there was anything else going on, such as autism or any other delayment that needed to be discussed. So after doing the evaluation with the developmental therapist, she had absolutely no concerns with him whatsoever. Actually scored pretty high on the developmental checklist, actually about 1.5 years older than he is. So when the speech therapist came back and said, well, he scored really high on his receptive language, but extremely low on his expressive language. So we started him with speech therapy and he did not need developmental therapy. We started him in speech about 2 or 3 months after his 2nd birthday. So he has consistently seen a speech therapist since his 2nd birthday, basically. And we found out that he has what's called Childhood Speech Apraxia. I had never heard of it before. I didn't know anyone with childhood speech apraxia. And obviously for those who do know what childhood speech apraxia is, it can be very, very scary receiving a diagnosis like that, because when you get to reading, you read how a lot of kids never speak. Some kids will speak, but much later in life. Some kids will go to 6th or 7th grade and have a very limited vocab. And there are kids who don't have as profound speech apraxia who have a bigger vocab much earlier on. It just depends on the kid, and it depends on the severity of the apraxia. So it has been a whirlwind since finding out that he has childhood speech apraxia. He is going to start using a iPad with a speech program on it. And so for those of you who have not heard of that or seen that, many nonverbal kids will use tablets in order to communicate with speech programs where they can touch a button and it will say exactly what the child's wanting. My husband's first worry was that it was going to keep him from wanting to talk, but our therapist feels confident that it actually has the opposite effect, that it's more frustrating to use the tablet, so it encourages more kids to talk. So with all of that being said, I had a really, really poor Danny moment where I thought, well, what does his education look like? You know, what does it look like when you have a kid in preschool or a kid in kindergarten or a kid in any grade and they can't talk? You know, what do you do? How do you teach a kid that can't talk? How do you teach them how to read? How do you teach them how to write? I mean, what do you do? And so I started really looking at all of the different pre-K programs. Now, I do have Blossom and Root, which we will be using with him for the music and for a lot of the art and the outdoor activities and things like that. So I want to say that first and foremost, that at the age of 3, I am huge about outside play and sensory things and just kind of still learning how the world works. But my hope with starting a pre-K program at the age of 3 with him is really just my hope that it will give him a little bit of a head start, simply because cognitively he is not delayed. So he understands exactly what you're saying. He understands what he wants to say. He understands where things should go. His critical thinking is great. His logic reasoning is great. So I didn't want to keep him from doing something that I feel like mentally he's ready for. It's just the expressive speech, because for those of you parents who have kids with speech difficulties, especially things as severe as apraxia, you have no idea when your kid's going to start talking. So do you just delay their education until they do start talking? I just don't think that's the answer, at least for us. I don't know what a doctor would tell other people, but at least for us and his prognosis, I feel really confident with starting him with pre-K. So I looked at several other pre-K programs that are offered. We are going to do a lot of reading together, a lot of coloring, a lot of art, like I said, a lot of outside time. But when I really got to reading about the Good and the Beautiful's pre-K curriculum, I was pretty excited about the things that the pre-K course book offers. So I just want to point out this puzzle to you guys. This is a Melissa and Doug puzzle, and this is one of Danny's favorite things to play with. It's a peg puzzle. It's not super difficult, but just as an example of something that cognitively he is able to do at his age, even without speaking. I can ask him what shape, he can point. I can ask him where the blue one is, he can point, he can pick the blue one up. They can all be out. I can tell him which one to put in, and he can. So cognitively, he can do these things. When I saw on the Good and the Beautiful website the samples for the pre-K, I thought that it was perfect, because the Good and the Beautiful pre-K comes with these alphabet flip books, letters A through F, G through L, and T through Z. So 3 separate booklets. But why I think this is going to be so great for us is with it being a flip book, you just cut down the dotted lines and then you have to match up the capital letter to the lower letter to the animal on the side of the page that matches, you know, so you would be like F, fox, things like that. So I think cognitively, Danny's going to be able to do this. This is very hands-on. This is something that we can take with us in the car when we go places, that he can look at and he can play with and flip through. So I think this will be a really good way of learning his ABCs without having to talk, because he will be able to recognize them, recognize both the uppercase and the lowercase, and then be able to recognize the animal that goes with that same sound. So he hears the sounds, he just can't say them. So I'm really excited about the Good and the Beautiful flip books. I think this is going to be one of the best things that we will have for him, and we are going to start using that pretty soon, actually. But as far as the course book goes, there's a lot of cutting practice. There's matching letters. There's so many different things in here for his age group. The writing is really big for the letters, so that will make things easier for him. I love the pictures that are in this course book, and I really love the questions that they ask. They're not super difficult questions. You know, like, how many ears are in this picture? How many eyes are in this picture? Do you think the dog is cute? What letter does cute start with? And if he can't tell me, then we can always use these flip books. So obviously the pre-K course book would be good for any child, but especially for my kiddo with a very limited speech vocabulary, the way they have it set up, I really feel is going to be a huge bonus for him. So if you have a child with any type of developmental disability or speech issue, I would highly recommend looking at the Good and the Beautiful. I also plan on starting him with All About Reading when the time is right. I am on an All About Reading board on social media, and a lot of parents that belong on that board have children with speech difficulties, as well as delayments like dyslexia, other things that might make reading a little bit harder for them. Obviously, picking a course book out for any child can be stressful. Make sure that you pick out what you think works best for your child. But I just really wanted to show you guys what is in this book, so you can see just how inclusive it is for all kids, not just children that are developing at what the doctors would consider a normal pace. I'm really excited to start him in this pre-K course book. I think this is going to be really great for him. I think it's going to be a really good stepping stone from just kind of doing some puzzles to actual curriculum. I just wanted to give him the opportunity to learn if he was ready to, and if he's not, you know, we will put it away and try again in a few more months. But he's been really eager to learn his colors and his shapes and building things and art, so I thought we would give it a try, especially this fall when he is about 3.5. So wish me luck, because I'm a little nervous, but I think all moms are nervous no matter what we are faced with sometimes. So for today, guys, thank you guys for sticking through with me in this video. I know it was kind of a tangent going off talking about my son, but I think that it's really important for you guys to understand my background and for me to be completely transparent with you guys as to why I pick the things that I do. It's not because, you know, this person picked it or this person did, or I was pressured into it or anything like that. I pick the curriculums that I pick based off what I think my kids need the most. And the Good and the Beautiful just cannot be beat for me right now. And like I said, maybe one day it won't serve us any longer, but right now it is doing a fantastic job. And I cannot wait to start the pre-K course book and all of the new stuff out of the Good and the Beautiful for my soon to be 3rd grader and 1st grader. So have a good day, guys. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.